Hi, I'm Alicia Butler-Pierre, and in this season on the Business Infrastructure Podcast, we're actually going to tour 12 different countries and figure out what it's like to do business in each of them. On our next stop is Croatia. But before we get into that, make sure you click on that subscribe button so that you don't miss any of the other episodes that we'll feature this season. Now, let's get to figuring out what is it like to do business in Croatia.
We're back on Equilibria Airlines for a quick 90-minute flight from Dublin, Ireland to London, England. While in Ireland, we had a great time meeting with Martina Goss, who shared different possibilities for expanding our operations via different Irish business programs. Now we're headed to meet Bhairav Patel in London, who we luckily caught as he's only here for a short while. He currently lives in Croatia. I'm Alicia Butler-Pierre, and this is Season 18 of the Business Infrastructure Podcast, the show where we share operational tips, tactics, and tools for curing back-office blues. I'll be honest, I've heard how beautiful Croatia is, but I don't know much about it from a business perspective. So I'm excited to learn more and hope that you are, too. This episode is underwritten by Equilibria Incorporated, the company behind this podcast where we design scale-ready business infrastructure for fast-growing small businesses. As the pilot announces our arrival at Heathrow Airport in London, England, we're taking in the size of this airport. It's big and busy. As we wait in line to go through customs, we each receive a text message. It's from Bhairav Patel, the co-founder of Atom CTO. He's beat us to the punch. He's a technologist, so of course he has an app that he's used to track our arrival. We make our way to the Piccadilly line of the Tube, London's infamous subway system. We're headed to meet Bhairav at a cafe. This is episode 224, Doing Business in Croatia with Bhairav Patel.
My name is Bhairav Patel. I'm currently in the UK, but I'm only here for a couple of days. I'm currently living, in a more general sense, in Croatia.
And you've been in Croatia for a year now, is that right?
Yes, pretty much as soon as COVID ended. We had Brexit at the same time in the UK, and I decided that I needed to kind of get out after spending 2 years at home with my parents. It would make much more sense to go exploring again, and so I ended up in Croatia because actually it was the easiest place for me to get a digital nomad visa.
A digital nomad visa? What is that?
Since Brexit, a number of countries have decided that they want to bring in foreigners. What you find is that if you obviously are born in the EU or have an EU passport, you can travel freely. But now, since Brexit and the UK are no longer part of the EU, it's much more difficult for us to be in Europe for any extended period. And a number of the countries in Europe decided that they wanted to entice people like myself and actually, people like yourself, Americans, third country nationals, to come over. And so countries like Estonia have one, Spain, Iceland, Georgia, Madeira has one, and then obviously Croatia. And there's more and more coming along. And what they allow you to do is to stay in the country for more than 3 months. And in certain circumstances, you don't have to pay tax, which is amazing.
Amazing indeed, and intriguing. I wondered how people like us living outside of Europe would apply for a digital nomad visa.
Depending on the country, it can be quite simple. So generally, you need to prove that you're not a criminal. You have to prove that you've got foreign income over a certain amount. I think Croatia was about 2,000 euros net. Greece is about 2,500 euros. Portugal has something similar as well. So you just have to prove that you've got the ability to pay for yourself while you're in that country. And then you need to show the insurance and a place to live. But that's easy enough to do. You can easily use Airbnb for the first month or two while you're there and use that as your proof of residence.
You might say that living in other countries is a part of Bhairav's DNA. Although he was born and raised in England, his parents are originally from India and relocated to England in the 70s. Growing up, Bhairav's academic success led to his acceptance at the highly acclaimed London School of Economics and Political Science. Although he pursued a law degree, He got his first taste of business consulting and living abroad when he worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers, also known as PwC, upon graduating.
So it was about 98, 99. I actually came to the US to train with PwC back in those days. And then my first project was Lithuania. And then 20 years later, I came back around about 2018 to start up Atom CTO. And that's why I moved back home and stayed until pretty much a year and a bit ago.
Obviously, a lot happened during those 20 years. But before we get into those details, I wanted to peel back the layers on Bhairav's career. How did you go from law to being this technocrat?
Yes, that in itself was an interesting journey. So what happened was I did the law degree and then I did a couple of small internships at some law firms just to gain some experience to see how they were. And I realized that I didn't like lawyers or working in the legal profession. But then I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I applied to everything you could have imagined. GlaxoSmithKline, oil companies, BP, Shell, whoever had a position that I thought was interesting. And then I would go to the interviews and then figure out, okay, is this something I want to do or not?
Bhairav interviewed for positions in so many industries until all that was left was management consulting. The clock was ticking. He needed to work. And that's when the PwC opportunity came about.
I think the consultancy aspect really fits with my personality. And well, back then it did. And it really fitted with what I wanted to do. And I always was a fan of technology. So doing technology consulting was great. And you got training just to get yourself going. So that's really why I switched.
And making that switch from law to technology would set Bhairav on a worldwide adventure. He worked at PwC for 4 years before succumbing to what many consultants experience: burnout.
So I quit, became a contractor, and started working at Telenor, actually, in Norway. And funnily enough, I halved my hours and doubled my wage by going there. So my work-life balance came back, and I was just a happier bird. And then from there, I ended up moving to another telco in Norway. But then from there, my old boss became the CEO of an e-commerce business. And then I kind of decided to take the jump and move to the other side. So rather than being a consultant, I became the IT director.
This transition from consulting to leading was a trial by fire experience. But Bhairav was ready. His technology training at PwC prepared him for this moment.
We were all very intelligent people who were quite adaptive and who could speak. And so what they didn't need to teach us was really how to talk, but what they did need to teach us was how to write Java code or write C code. Then funnily enough, the first project I took used neither of those. So I had to learn a couple of other programming languages, and you just learn by doing. You have a very strong team around you. I was quite fortunate in my career path in that I had some very good mentors, and they really pushed me to kind of go into different areas within tech. So I was not only programmer, but then I became a test team lead, and then I became an architect.
And next came Bhairav's advancement into that IT director role. As they say, to whom much is given, much is expected. This opportunity found him leading larger teams with larger solutions. He also got to see how an entire business is run end to end. By 2013, he answered a calling for a new opportunity.
I hope you enjoyed watching this video. You can catch the full interview by going to businessinfrastructure.tv or by clicking the link below in the description box. Don't forget to subscribe so that you'll know exactly when the next episode drops. See you in the next video.
Join us next week for another episode of Business Infrastructure with Alicia Butler-Pierre.